Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Everhomes weekly broadcast on real estate trends. My name is Lee Honish, and I am joined by David Bartels. This show is brought to you by Everhome. Please visit Everhome at everhome.io. And now a word from our sponsor. List your home online for one low set fee. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full-service representation for critical elements of negotiations, legal forms, escrow, and title for a low set fee that saves you thousands. Visit everhome.io. That's www.everhome.io. That's Everhome for every home. Welcome back. Please check out Everhome and follow them online at everhome.io. As I said before, I'm joined by David Bartels, broker owner. How are you today, David?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about how the world is evolving.
The world is it is all as it should be. It is as it should be. I don't want to get very power of now for everybody since we've done all those broadcasts way back when, but it is. It's playing out. How is the current real estate market in Southern California going for you?
Oh, it's still insane. It doesn't seem to get anything but busier. We think that's going to break soon, though, and loosen up a little bit. But for right now, it's on a tear, and if you're lucky enough to you're lucky enough to be wanting to buy a house, you're going to have to work really hard to get one. There's just no inventory.
You got to throw in that the dream addendum that again Google it, people, for those in real estate. The dream addendum is so hilarious with I'll move you out and I'll buy you Netflix for a year. And probably, I think one I saw actually had pizzas on it for a year as well, delivered weekly, which I thought was a cute twist. This show is about real estate trends. David and I talk to you each and every week about them. It is a broadcast, a podcast. It is a video. It is available on multiple forms for all of you to watch or listen to. You can go to Everhome.io, watch the video. That's a really simple spot. It's available on YouTube. But more importantly, it is a broadcast for those that are listening, and there are literally thousands of you who listen to this each and every week. We thank you very much. Click like, subscribe, and share. Let's dive right into it. This was David's selection for the week. We haven't seen a David article pop up in my email in a while. Zillow President is expects increase in home listings as COVID certainly improves. So you're the one who came across this, and let's take it bullet point by bullet point. He's the president, who is now Susan Daimler, forgive me, told CNBC last week that she expects a quote unquote great reshuffling and a rise in coming inventory. Why don't you expand upon that a little bit and what caught your eye about this? You've been talking about it a little bit off and on, and we're seeing a decline of homes coming on the market. How will the change with the moratorium come to an end, possibly, and the COVID restrictions being dropped? Where do you see it?
Well, what she's saying is what we've been talking about here for quite some time, is that the number one reason the market is so crazy, we're just talking about this actually, is because there's no inventory. And the reason there's no inventory is that people don't want to sell their house. And the reason they don't want to sell their house when they might otherwise want to sell their house is because, for a number of reasons. One of the big reasons is they just don't want strangers in their house that may be transmitting COVID to them and their families. And the other reason is that you've got ma and pa landlords that are out there who want to sell their rental properties, especially after not getting paid for many, many months, a year, some of them, and they want to be able to unload them. I've got, a small boatload of people who have houses with tenants that they want to sell and they can't, and they're having to work really hard to do that. So what's happening is there are two things. As the moratoriums get lifted, which probably isn't going to happen until the end of the year, by the way, those landlords are going to be looking to get their properties on the market. That'll loosen inventory up. And more importantly, as people get vaccinated and we approach that herd immunity number, which I understand is somewhere in the 70% of all people are vaccinated, people are getting more comfortable, and as they resume more of a normal life, like going to the movies and going out to dinner and getting comfortable being around people that they don't know, you're going to see a lot of inventory coming on the market. So there's a lot of pent-up buyer demand, but there's a lot of pent-up seller demand too, and they're going to start loosening up, and the market will normalize a bit.
Which takes us to the next point of, so are we back to normal trends? Will we start to see people moving and reshuffling their lives and adjusting to that? Are you foreseeing that? Are you seeing people that, again, we're coming on summer, and I know this with my own daughter, that school schedules are a little wonky, but downsizing again during summer for people who are sending kids off to college, will that movement have some kind of impact on the inventory?
Yeah, but I think it's less about kids going off to college and more about the lifestyle people are having. So one of the factors that have caused people to wait is not knowing whether or not their company is going to require them to go back to work or not. I think workers who have enjoyed working from home as opposed to going to the office every day have been harboring a fantasy about maybe we'll be able to do this, after COVID. And I think more and more, if you're pay attention to news sources like CNBC, all the big companies are saying, no, we're going back to work. Everybody's going back to work. Working from home is not going to be an option. And they're going to be putting these teams back together in the office. And that is going to, be a moment of reckoning for a lot of people who would hope to be able to continue to work from home, which would dictate the kind of housing choices they might make in terms of, do they buy, do they sell, do they upsize, do they leave the area? And the other thing is whether or not, a lot of people have been wanting to move more to the suburbs where it's more family friendly perhaps, and more affordable and more roomy, for the money. And so I think that there's been a lot of people on hold for those couple of reasons. And that's where the reshuffling is that they're talking about. Are people staying? Are people going? Are they moving up? Are they moving down? Are they moving closer to work? Are they moving further from work? Are they going to make a lifestyle choice? Are they going to make a professional choice? Do they want an open floor plan, or do they need extra space where they can, have some privacy during the workday? So those are the factors.
Susan goes on to state, because she and I have now a personal relationship now that I butchered her last name of Daimler. Forgive me, Susan, if you're listening or watching. I hope a person I would like to call mentor and friend, Susan. Susan goes on to state further that the interest rates are having an impact on the incredibly hot market. And we are at a very, very low interest rate. And again, the talk after this summer, certainly going into next year, is going to be a discussion of, do we raise the interest rate? When do the interest rates come up? Eventually, they have to come up. How much of an impact is the interest rate having on purchasing power from your perspective?
Oh, it's having a big impact. I mean, listen, rates dipped down under 3%. Then since the first of the year, they went up to over 3.5%. This week they dipped below 3.5% again. And it's already moved some of the people out of the market. If you're a buyer and you're looking at these low interest rates, it's saying, this is the best money I'm ever going to be able to find, and I can buy the most amount of money. And the problem is that the prices have moved up more than the savings on the interest rate. So if you're a buyer and you're thinking, well, if I don't buy now, I might be forced to buy in a year or two or three where I have higher interest rates and even higher prices, not knowing whether or not their income is going to move up at the same pace.
Well, that seems to,
it creates urgency.
No, I agree with you. And I wanted to bring this up because I saw somebody do a breakdown of this. Remarkably, my social media is littered with a lot of real estate agents. And I saw somebody brought up a really good breakdown of the infamous, I want to sell later. If the market's so hot, it'll be worth more, or I want to buy later. And they were showing the impact of what an interest rate really does have if you wait, say, a year, to purchase or sell. So the interest rate coming up will ultimately cool down the market just a little bit from your perspective.
Of course, it's going to cool the market off, but not a lot, because what's going to happen is that when the surge of inventory comes into the market that we've been talking about,
Sure.
you can expect the price appreciation to I don't want to say stall, but it's going to come back to more normal ratios. So instead of this 15-ish% rise we've seen over the last year in terms of housing prices, it's probably going to get back to where it's competing with inflation, for numbers, 2-3%, growth spurts. So that's what we really have to wait and see. What are prices what kind of buyer demand will we have when we have enough inventory?
Right.
And that will decide. And I think that you'll see a shift. It's not going to be a buyer's market by any means. It's still going to favor sellers, but more moderately.
Well, that brings up the question that I'm sure many homeowners are asking themselves, David, and I will ask you as the broker owner, CEO. Did you give yourself title CEO or president?
Well, my board gave me the title. I tried not to take it.
You didn't give everybody on your board the power to outvote you like I did.
They have the power. That's the problem.
That is the problem. Yeah, I've discovered that for myself. Here's the question that every seller really has, right? And I would like to hear your response to it. Is now the right time to sell, or should I wait? And what are the advantages to selling now in a simplistic seller term?
The only thing that I know about the future is that it's going to be different. It could be better. It could be worse. I don't really know. So from a prognosticating perspective, I think that if you're buying a house to make it your homestead and you're planning to be there 10 years, 15 years, it doesn't matter. Just go buy the house. Go buy the best house that you can buy right now. Don't worry about is the market going to go up? Is the market going to go down? I mean, the reality is, listen, just look at the last market downturn that we had, 2008, 2009, and 10 years later, we're plenty above where we started, at the peak of the crash when things dropped 40%. We're all the way back. So if you're buying on a 10-year plus horizon, just like if you were investing in the stock market with a 10-year plus horizon, you're going to be okay. It's more about the safety and security of where you're going to live. You shouldn't be looking at your residence so much as an investment. It's an asset, but more than anything, it allows you to dictate the terms of your relationship with that house. You don't have a landlord, unless you don't pay your mortgage, I guess. You don't have a landlord stating what you can and can't do. And you don't have a landlord telling you, you know what, we've decided that we're going to raise the rent, or we've decided we're going to sell it, or we've decided we want a different tenant, and putting you in a position where you have to move. So if you want to buy a house, buy a house. That's my thing.
Which kind of goes to the last point. We were talking about this before we started, and I think it's an interesting point to bring up, not about the moratorium lifting. That's going to do whatever that's going to do. What I'm interested in are the renters that have been saving up money, theoretically, who have not been making their payments and planning, I'm going to use this money to buy. When the moratorium lifts, I would expect even more buyers to come onto the market, because there will be a lot of renters who had no negative effects from the moratorium, and they will have been able to save up all that money to now shift into purchasing. And I wouldn't be surprised if a little bit of that isn't fueling the buyer side of all of this, at least the smart ones.
We're already seeing that.
Right.
The numbers seem to be 35-40% of all home purchases are in fact first-time home buyers.
Right.
So they already make up the largest segment of home buyers, and I think that's going to continue. And I think a big part of that is just the aging of the millennials, who have now are the biggest demographic. They waited longer, they saved up more money. There's now their early 30s, and, maybe mid 30s, some of them, and they're finally ready to, what's the term? Adulting. They're ready to do adulting.
Right.
Another term I use, but
it's perfect.
For some reason came to mind.
Well, because I'm particularly bad at adulting, I completely understand the term. My daughter points it out to me quite frequently that I'm bad at it. Is there anything you'd like to add about the supply and demand issues or the current market that you think was not covered or should be covered? Because I'm sure going into the summer, it's just going to be hotter and hotter, especially with more activity.
Yeah, no, the market's going to be fine. There's going to be a lot more inventory coming to the market. I do anticipate buyers are going to meet the demand for that. I think that you're going to see a little less competition, and you'll see more property. The days on market will probably start to increase a little bit, and more importantly for home buyers is that the appreciation that we've seen will really settle down to more normal levels of appreciation, and interest rates should stay in the range that they're in for at least through the end of this year, maybe well into next year. The Fed's not going to do anything to disrupt the housing market. It's too big, has too big an impact on GDP.
I agree. With that said, why don't you find out about listing your home just like a realtor for one low set fee? Check out Everhome right now. List your home online for one low set fee. Experience the Everhome way and discover the benefits risk-free. Explore Everhome's easy-to-use listing service risk-free and begin your journey to sell your home like a realtor. Get the benefits of massive exposure, full-service representation for critical elements of negotiations, legal forms, escrow, and title for a low set fee that saves you thousands. Visit everhome.io. That's www.everhome.io. That's Everhome for every home. Welcome back. Please visit everhome.io. Follow him on social media at everhome.io. A long, hot summer of hot listings. Is that what we're looking at still, David?
I think that listings are going to keep coming more and more and more. So I think that's really the bottom line. As people relax and they try to get back to their lives as they knew it before COVID, you're going to see them putting their houses on the market as well. I think those two things go hand in hand. The more normalized our communities become, the more normalized the housing market will become.
Please visit our sponsor, Everhome.io, on social media, Everhome.io. That is on social media. Follow David Bartels at David Bartels, and follow me at Lee Honish Marketing. We are all here we want to hear your feedbacks, comments, concerns, or directions you want to go. That's sort of the first real, I think that's our first real article about the market in quite a while, David. This is almost like real breaking news in the world. Everything has been so light and fluffy because the market has been so hot lately. I don't think I've ever seen real estate news trends be this soft for so many weeks where there isn't something incredibly hard hitting. It's nice to see good things about the market. I think that's encouraging for buyers and sellers. How is it from your perspective?
I agree. I think there's plenty of good news. Listen, if you're a seller, you're ecstatic. If you're a buyer, you're stressed. But the market is really pretty one-sided. But I think that if you're anticipating a market crash, I think you're, overreading, the indicator. I don't think there's any reason to believe we're going to have a market crash. And if you're looking to see a more normalized market, I think that's coming up this summer.
There you go. Check out Everhome. List your home for one low set fee, Everhome.io. Follow David. Follow me. Let us know. Comment, feedback, concern. There's even an email in there, I'm quite positive, and all the contact information for David himself. Check the links, probably above or below. We do appreciate you all listening and watching us each and every week, and we will be back later in the week with more.